Welcome to Radiant Midlife, the podcast for women who know they're here to lead differently. I'm your host, Tara Preston, midlife matriarchal awakening and transition guide, sacred nourishment and feminine prosperity mentor, creator of the Flower of Life Akashic Healing Method and certification, serving women globally for over 14 years. Here we explore midlife as a sacred portal of rebirth, a time for cycle breakers, visionaries, and mothers of new paradigms to awaken their power and rise as matriarchs. Each week, we'll dive into soulful conversations that blend the spiritual and the practical, from feminine leadership, womb wisdom, and prosperity to holistic wellness, hormones, and herbal support. Everything you need to feel nourished, radiant, and free in this next evolution of your life. Because midlife isn't an ending, it's the beginning of your most powerful chapter yet. Before we begin, I'd love to gift you my free ebook, Sacred Nourishment for Midlife Radiance, a beautiful guide filled with nourishing rituals, herbal wisdom, and feminine prosperity practices to support your vitality and radiance. You can download it through the link in the show notes. Welcome home. Enjoy this episode of Radiant Midlife. Hello and welcome to the Radiant Midlife Secret Series podcast. I'm your host, Tara Preston, and I am here with Amy Gernaat. This is officially kickstarting the Radiant Midlife Secret Podcast series. Oh boy, I'm going to have fun saying that over and over again. And I am so excited to dive into this conversation. The reason that the Secret Series podcast was even born is to give women a really beautiful sacred space to be able to listen to a deeper truth beyond the collective noise that we're hearing around the perimenopause to menopause, midlife, initiation, journey, however you want to term it, and to find power in this portal, in this passage. And so I'm here with Amy. Today we're talking about the power of midlife anchored through the body. I've been watching her online for the last 3, 4, 5 months, and I really love what she's about. So I'm going to share a little bit. I'm going to introduce her, and then of course I'm going to hand it over to Amy. If there's anything else that she wants to share, she can. And then we're going to dive into this conversation, and they're meant to be conversations, just this exploration, really to, drawing from the wisdom and experience of the women that I'm interviewing. And so I hope you enjoy. So Amy is the midlife architect working with high capacity women standing at a structural turning point in their lives. Her work is grounded in the recognition that midlife is not a decline or a crisis, it's a threshold. The moment when a woman reaches the range limit of the life she's built, as is being called into a more potent self-authored architecture. With over a decade in women's vitality, embodiment, and life design, Amy's approach moves beyond symptom management, mindset work, or self-optimization. I love this. Her work centers the body, and I love this piece as well. Her work centers the body as an intelligent architect rather than a problem to be managed through strategic audits, threshold navigation, and body-led structural design. She often works with women who are seasoned, capable, and deeply self-aware. Is there anything that I missed, Amy? Anything that you wanted to add in terms of sharing who you are?
Oh, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. Thank you.
And so, one of my first questions, actually, I was just reading through this, and I think the piece that jumped out to me here was around symptom management versus, how the lens that you look at the body and midlife. And I'm wondering if you could just speak to that a little bit.
Absolutely. So, our culture revolves around the body being a problem, right? And so it's like the body is a problem. Symptoms need to be managed. They need to be medicated. They need to be, thrown out. Symptoms mean that there's something wrong with you. And I look at it through the lens of the symptoms are telling you something about your body and your life. Like it's data, it's information, it's the way that the body communicates. The body doesn't communicate through language in the way that we do. The body is going to communicate through sensation, through symptom, through how it's feeling, whether it's feeling wonderful or it's feeling terrible. That's all information for us to understand how the body is experiencing our lives. And when we start to make that adjustment, it puts us into such a position of power and partnership, as opposed to the problem solver. My body is betraying me. My body's out to get me. My body's trying to ruin my life, which I hear all the time from women in that perimenopause to menopause. My body's ruined my life. This is terrible. And so we go after the symptoms then, and then it just ends up being a Band-Aid, because as I know you understand, with symptom management, you're never looking under the hood. You're never looking under the surface of who a woman is and how the body is really actually guiding her back to who she actually is through symptoms. Saying, like, whether you're having maybe some anxiousness or restlessness in the body, or some brain fog or fatigue or something like that. And when you start to look at your life, like, I'm in a job that pays me really well, and I'm really unhappy. I'm exhausted all the time, but I'm super good at it, really super capable. But every time you go in, and I've had this experience myself of like going into a job that I was very good at, got paid really, really well, and I was having panic attacks going into work in the morning and having to like hype myself up to go, even though it was something I'd been there for a long time and I loved it to a certain extent, but it wasn't what the calling was. And it was showing up in my body. My body was saying, you're going to have to make a change, and it's not comfortable. It's time to do something different, and it doesn't feel good, but it's the right thing to do. And so just that switch of, my body is a guidance system. It is an intelligence, and it is going to give me the truth about how it's experiencing life. When I operate and partner with her from that, rather than trying to make her be quiet all the time, it opens up just a completely different conversation, and also opens you up to the truth about yourself. You get to know yourself through the body.
It's a really beautiful redirect. Yes. Absolutely. And I know for myself, even too, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, I was starting to get some of the traditional peri symptoms that we hear about. And same thing. And I guess having a background in, feminine wisdom and paying attention to the body, that for me was a real call to be like, okay, what is being asked of me here? And it was a journey. Like it was a good 1.5 years, 2 years of like listening to the body, nourishing the body. Actually, I was like very depleted in minerals. Like there were places, for me too, there was some of the mother wound was actually coming up in terms of just like where I was like caregiving and caretaking, right? That actually wasn't honoring like my own energy reserves, my own truth, and my own, just desire to be more fully anchored in my power. And it was really through that redirect that like, I don't really have any, I'm 48 now, but like, I don't have any peri symptoms. And I was on the edge of brain fog, a little bit of like weird kind of hot flashy things happening, and inflammation, like a lot of things that we hear about. So I just wanted to kind of like mirror that back and share that there's so much power through listening to our bodies. And for me, it was like, okay. And I started lifting weights. That was the other thing too. But this is a time where we're creating a foundation. We need to create a new foundation to hold us for what is next. And I love how you said, like, it's like, where we're being called to, and listen, and the body being a guide. And also, really what have we tolerated? What have we outgrown? Where are we being guided to next? That's amazing.
And I think there's a point you brought up there that's really important. And it was the realization of how depleted you were. Because this is largely what I'm seeing with women who are hitting this stage. And if you think, you're coming into this midlife transition and the body is going to become new, right? Like the hormonal system, the structure of it is changing. It's going to operate in a different way. The adrenals are going to take over part of the function of estrogen, and other parts of the body do the same thing. And then, your brain is actually restructuring. There's a pruning that happens in the brain. So your brain is becoming new. Like you have less tolerance for things. You are less, you are like the people pleaser has to start exiting stage left. Like she cannot hang on during this transition. And it's like, as the progesterone begins to drop, that's like the wake up point. Like you kind of look around like, what's happening? Where am I? And, so what I see is women who are coming into this stage when all of these things are happening, and you think, okay, if the hormonal system is changing, if the brain system's changed, just from the physical, not even everything else, how much does the body need to be resourced in order to do that? That's big work, right? Like even our monthly cycle, the shedding of the lining of the uterus and the detoxification and the purging and everything that happens is very big work. And so you can really see a woman's cycle as she enters the perimenopause phase. If she's struggled with her cycle, we already know she's depleted. The resources are not available for her to go through the actual menses. And so we see this in the larger transition then, that women are coming in exhausted. They may not really realize they're exhausted, right? Because we're used to powering through. We find the ways to keep going, whatever that is. And we don't realize the level of depletion and exhaustion we have until it's so in our face that we can't not look at it. And then the problem with saying it's just your hormones means you miss the picture, like what you so beautifully described for yourself. Like these are the things that I was actually depleted in: the overgiving, the overdoing, the mineral depletion. And if it's just your hormones, you don't look at any of those things that really have to be looked at this phase.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it strengthened me in so many ways. And I have to say too, it was overgiving, not just like as a mother, but even just to my community, like as someone who's been in the realm of like feminine leadership and growing a community and mentorship for like the last 16 years, I really had to look at bringing some pieces into balance for this new foundation. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. So where do you feel like what do you, as we're speaking to this, what do you feel like the deeper kind of like truth around midlife is versus the mainstream story? And we were chatting a little bit about some pieces of this prior to starting the recording, but
yeah, I love this question because when you really like zoom out and start to pick it apart, it really, like, the mainstream version falls apart, right? Like, so the mainstream version, we'll start there, is that this is just a hormone problem, that it is a disease. I have seen a number of women, medical professionals, actually call menopause a disease, which it blows my mind. I think it's the most bizarre thing. It's like, so are we going to call puberty and pregnancy a disease too? Because those are also similar transitions. So they're looking at it only through the lens of the hormone changes, and that the hormone changes are driving everything. But even if you just think about it from the basic biology, like, hormones are messengers. They're designed to respond to what the body is asking for. So they're not actually driving the things. There's drivers driving them. And because there is a change happening, you're more sensitive to bigger changes during this time. You're more sensitive to stress. You're more sensitive to those things, but they're not the problem. They are just part of the transition in this phase. And we know that this falls apart because, like we were talking about before we hopped on, there are women around the world right now, not like hundreds of years ago, right now, who are being studied because they don't have menopausal symptoms at all. Like, they don't experience this. They don't even have a name for menopause because it's not on their radar, because they're just not having this experience. And so when you look at it through, when you understand, it's like, when I understood that and I saw that, I couldn't unsee the problem, right? Because the hormone conversation, then it's like, well, no, the hormone, it's not hormones. It can't be. Otherwise, every single woman would be having this experience around the world. And that's not the truth. So the hormone conversation cannot be the truth. And people will say, well, those people are living differently, they're close to the land. I'm like, yes. And that proves my point. They're living in a way that honors the biology still. And we have lived in ways now for generations that don't honor a woman's cyclical biology, because we are not little men. We don't operate that way, but we've been forcing ourselves into that framework. And now we're seeing the level of, I'm going to call it, damage that's been done by us living in that way for decades and decades and decades. And back to your point of, like, it depletes the feminine biology. It depletes feminine essence. It can't not, because we are not supposed to be plugged into that system. It's not designed for us. And so it's like trying to plug in a Mac cord to your PC. it's not going to charge the system. It's not going to work at
Mm-hmm.
all. And that's what we've really done. And so then we can have the bigger conversation then about HRT. And that like, that's a Band-Aid. That doesn't solve the problem. For some women, they do get the symptoms do go away. For some women, nothing happens at all. For some women, they feel worse. But HRT essentially puts you in a suspended animation from the end of the menstrual cycle to the like middle of the luteal cycle. And so you now stay there. There's no more cycling. And so you're staying in this place, which I was listening to a great interview with, I'm going to totally forget her name. It was with Kimberly Ann Johnson, and her name has escaped me. It'll come in a minute. But she was essentially saying, and I agree with her, we've never done this in the history of women outside of birth control. And we know the effects of birth control now after decades of women being on birth control. We've never done this. We've never put women in the menopausal, postmenopausal phase in a state of suspended animation where they are no longer a cyclical being. We do not know the full ramifications of that.
I 100% agree. Yeah. I'm like, we're just starting to see HRT, and they keep saying, you know, there's like all these long-term studies. I'm like, no. Yeah. Like,
let's just say no. There's not
of this, and it's going to come in the next like 10, 15, 20 years.
Exactly.
And it's that overriding of like the feminine system. Overriding of the feminine system since the time that we were small, when we were, you know, told to just pop an Advil and kind of get on with life when we had our bleed. And there's huge energetic and emotional and physical consequences to that. I love that. There's something else that you said that I wanted to speak to, but now I'm forgetting what it is. Yeah, that's brilliant. And I think, you know, you spoke to exactly like how we actually got here. And so when we're talking about these things, it's like, how do we do it differently? Like, how are you feeling that we start to ease into this journey differently? What's the alternative? How can we pull? I love how you said, you know, that power and partnership with the body. But and maybe it starts there. Maybe it lands somewhere different for you.
So, you know, how we approach this season differently. I think the number one place is to really start talking over and over and over again that, you know, your body is not out to get you. You know, your body is not a problem to be fixed. Your body is not being a jerk. You know, that's like, I think that's one of the number one things, because women, they have so much fear instilled in them when they get to this phase, because all they hear is horror stories. So they're coming in already really afraid. They're believing that the body it's almost like the way they talk about it, like, it's not really happening as part of you. It's like this hormonal system is over here and it's doing this thing, and you're over here and it's just hammering away at you. And that's not reality, which we know. And so there's that aspect of, we have to see the body different. We have to start developing a very different relationship with the body than we've had. We have to get back in the body. We have to actually experience the way that it feels and know that just because something is uncomfortable doesn't mean it's bad or that something really wrong is happening. Obviously, if you feel led to go and have something checked, please do that. We're not saying to not do that, but we're so used to, if something's uncomfortable, something is bad. So we need to turn it off as fast as possible. Instead, we actually need to lean in and ask questions. So like when I'm working with a woman who's going through this transition, we are essentially auditing her whole life. Like, I want to know everything. I want to know how her job feels and her work in the world. I want to know about her relationships. I want to know how she feels about moving her body. I want to know what her relationship is with food. I want to know her relationship to rest. Like, does she feel like she has permission to do nothing? Does she have permission to rest and just be, or does she feel like she has to be doing something in order to be worthy of rest? Like, I want to know all these things, because all of those things are changing the biology, right? It's not just, these are not separate. Life, everything you do in life, even this conversation that we're having, if you're filling out a spreadsheet, if you're walking the dog, if you're just sitting doing nothing, your biology is changing according to that. It can't not. It's designed to do that. And so when we start to understand that everything that we're doing in our life, the body is going to create a response to that. It actually feels like so much more powerful than this thing over here is happening and there's nothing I can do about it, because it's just not the truth. So I think those two pieces, a woman understanding that her body's not out to get her, her body is not betraying her, even in menopause, and that there's a whole woman that needs attention that maybe hasn't had attention in a very long time. You don't even know what you want. You've never even been asked that question before. This whole woman that requires attention, that will change the biology as you go through menopause in a positive way.
Exactly. And I think too, as I'm listening to you speak, it's like, and one thing I've kind of felt my way through too, is the timeline that we choose for aging. And that, I was thinking about, well, how did my mom, what did her timeline look like? What did my grandma, and I mean, my grandma's 92 and, pretty healthy and it's all good, but also, how can I change the trajectory of like what it means for me to step into more of my evolution, where my power lies in midlife, how the relationship I want to have with my vitality and my body, and how can I start like looking at midlife from like that kind of lens as well, was really powerful for me.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
So just for the listeners, right? It's like just really feeling we don't have to follow the collective narrative. We don't have to follow the lineage narrative, although we can look and see the strength of our lineage. We can actually also choose something different. I kind of just wanted to swing it back to the HRT. I remembered what I wanted to say about that and that suspension. And one thing that I kind of see with HRT, some of the doctors that we hear talking about it, is that, I'm not like angry anymore when I put my like estrogen patch on, and I'm like, be angry, like feel the anger. Why are you just like slapping your patch on and then like, walking around happy all the time? I think we need to like look a little bit more at the shadow work piece, like, be angry. That's we spend decades, if not lifetimes, and then talk about ancestral like rage. So, I mean, there's ways that can feel safe and supported to feel the anger, but like, I think that's the other piece too. And I don't know if you're talking about Jane.
I was Hardwick Collins. Yes.
And I've heard her speak to this too, which I just like adore, but it's like, that is one of the issues with HRT, is that you're not feeling and processing and healing some of the deeper layers that are there to evolve you, to heal you, to transcend some of the pain that you've been carrying. So anyways, I just wanted to speak. If you have something to add, jump right in.
That was so good. And it's such a big part of the conversation too, of why are we trying to, halt feeling anything? But that's part of the system too, right? Like that's the symptom management. We don't want to feel. And then there's like the anger part of like, you don't have to be a good girl. Like, stop trying to be the good girl. Stop trying to be sugar and spice and everything nice. Like, be all the parts of you, like inhabit every single bit of it. Like if you're angry, just be fucking angry, right? Like just be it and feel it all the way through, and everything that it has to tell you and everything that it has to show you. You're not going to get stuck there. And I think that's something that women get afraid of. Like, if I just start getting angry, I'm just going to be angry all the time. And it's like, you're not going to be angry all the time when you give yourself permission to feel all the way through what you're feeling. It's going to complete the cycle. The problem with not feeling it is now that energy has to go somewhere. So it's going to go into your tissues. It's going to go into that endometrial lining. It's going to go into the fallopian tubes. It's going to go into the ovaries. It's going to go into the pelvic bowl, because that energy has to go somewhere. And then you essentially have to encapsulate the energy of anger in the body. And I know part of that's liver too. I see it though so much in the pelvic floor with women. It's just like this tension and all of this stuff that's happening there, because we won't just feel the anger, because it doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel like we have permission, and it doesn't feel like it's something that we're supposed to be allowed to do. But if you just make it go away, again, it doesn't go away. You don't feel it, but it doesn't leave. It is staying in your body until you give it permission to be felt. And that's like going back to, we don't know what the long-term issues are with someone who's being on HRT for their whole lives, because we don't know. And I know it's like, they're like this study and that study. Well, if you weren't part of the study, it doesn't matter to you, because all the variations of your life weren't involved in that study. So it actually doesn't relate to you. You have to be your own study.
Totally. And two, it's like, we have to recognize that there are all these studies, like, and that there is, menopause itself is like $1 billion industry. It's kind of becoming a little bit like medicalized. And again, it's like stepping back and being like, well, like, what do I want this, evolution of my life to look like? Because that's only one side of it. And there's a deeper, side to what this journey gets to be about, which I know that you understand. And maybe we'll just we'll just speak to that a little bit to just kind of ground today's conversation in that this does get to be a very pivotal time for our evolution. You were talking about the body and the body intelligence and listening to the redirect, the calling, and that if we listen to the collective narrative, if we, really buy into how medicalized this is becoming, we miss out on something, I believe, and this is up to the listener to see where you land with this. I believe we're missing out on a deep piece of our power emerging as midlife women, our liberation to really shift the collective timeline around what it means for aging women to really step into their embodied power. And I will hand it back to you, because I know you'll have something to add to that.
I completely agree with everything you said. I think one of the things that you said is the most important is like, you get to choose, right? As a woman going through the season, you get to choose whether that is going through the process of HRT, whether it is doing it natural, whether you're somewhere in between. Because again, that's only one very small part of the conversation, right? And so you get to choose what this looks like. And so you can choose what the mainstream is, because that feels like the right journey for you. Or you can say, I want to explore what this entire season is. Like, I want to explore, I want to get down in the mud with it. I want to roll around. I want to wrestle with it. I want to fly. I want to, plant new seeds. I want to go on adventures. Like, you get to decide the level that you want to embrace it and to step into it. And it really is for you to determine what that is. And I think these conversations that you're having are so important, so that women know there are other options. There are other conversations that are being had. There's other questions that you can ask. There's other things that you can explore. And if you're feeling that, like, you feel like you need to do the medical route, but you really do want to explore, but you don't know what to do, these conversations you're having with all these women are what are going to give them the map, essentially, to other conversations that they can have for themselves. And just go explore this season, explore it, experiment, try things on, see what fits, see what doesn't fit. And, a lot of women get to this point in life and they're like, who am I? Who am I? And I have so many women in my world who are in the transition of becoming empty nesters. The kids are going off to college, and that's a really huge change. And they're looking at the way they make decisions and their time and what this means for the family. And they have these big questions to ask. And, it's very courageous to me to lean in and ask the questions. It's a very courageous thing, because it's not always comfortable. And sometimes it turns things upside down. But if we don't do it, if we don't take the time to at least ask what we want, again, whatever that ends up being for you, then it becomes 10, 20, 30 years down the line and you're having this question. And it's not that you're ever too late, but why wait? Right? You can ask the question now. You get to choose.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. Okay. I love that we're landing there.
Yeah.
So Amy, share with us your free gift, and then we're going to provide the links underneath. But yeah, if you want to take a moment and talk about that.
Yes. So in my work, I take women through a kind of an extensive audit project. And so I decided to create a GPT that would take a woman through this process on her own. It's a tool of reflection. Yeah, it's not diagnostic, so it's not going to tell you what to do with your hormones. It's not going to tell you what supplements to get. It's not that kind of a product, but it's my full audit in GPT form, and it takes you question by question. I think there's 18 questions. And for you to really take time and sit and think about things like, what do you want? What is my relationship with my body? What is my relationship with food? And then it takes you through the process and gives you like a summary essentially of everything you talked about. And then it comes with the weekly companion. So you can actually go in week by week as you're working through things, and the weekly companion will just give you some reflection week to week. It's a really wonderful tool. Yeah, it's a really wonderful tool. Yeah.
That's amazing. All right. And then we do have some links to find you on your on social media. Is there one or two in particular, or something that's easy that people can just kind of like hop on Facebook and find you right now?
Facebook is really the easiest place to find me. I'm there the most. And then I'm starting to do a lot more on Substack. So that would be the other place. And Substack, it's the Midlife Architect. And then for the Facebook page, it's Amy Gernaat. So you've got the links to share with everybody, but those are the two places where I'm going to be most active for right now.
Okay, beautiful. All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for catching the podcast. If you would like to come and hop into Telegram and just share some of your most important insights or takeaways and just connect, we would love to have you. Link below. And again, thanks so much for taking part. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.